So I'm a full-time freelance creative artist. Most of my work is done in text and video, and so what that means is I spend a lot of time banging my face against a keyboard or dragging a mouse around a video timeline hoping that something worth publishing happens to come out at the end. What it mostly means is a daily schedule that feels measurable in weeks rather than hours. Being able to enjoy the space you work in is extremely important. So over the last couple of years, I have done what I can to keep my office a space of automotive and work enjoyment, but quite frankly, it's a mess. Between having to store all of my tools for home improvement projects and working on cars, as well as my 3D printer, musical instruments, and so much more, my office is a massive mess, and quite frankly, I'm tired of it. So I've decided that I'm going to build the ultimate version of an automotive enthusiast office, and I'm bringing you guys along for the ride. Let's do it. One of the first things I absolutely had to change in my office was my desk. The desk I was using is an old flat pack unit I picked up for pretty cheap at Office Max or someplace, and thanks to being torn apart and moved 5 or 6 times, as well as drilling holes and things in it for wire management and stuff, the desk is barely holding together. At this point, if it wasn't for healthy doses of wood glue, zip ties, and duct tape, it probably would have collapsed on itself a long time ago. Plus, there was nothing about it that was automotive. Okay, but that brings up the question, how does a desk even be automotive to start with? And the answer, for me at least, is you make a customized wood top that you stain with the used oil from a record-setting Ferrari 360 Challenge race car. Yeah, I said Ferrari race car oil on a desk. Now, before we go into the actual top, and I am going to show you guys how I made the top, we're going to talk about the desk itself. When it comes to choosing a convertible sit-stand desk, there are tons of options on the market now. The last few years have seen this segment explode, and there are companies like Autonomous Desk and UpDesk and EvoDesk and more. But for me, I decided to go with a desk called the Jarvis by a company named Fully. There's a whole pile of reasons I did that, which I'll cover in a video I can link up here later, but for now, we're going to start with the 3 big ones. The first one is capacity. I wanted a big desk with a big slab of wood, and I want to put lots of things on it. I have very large monitors and a very heavy computer, and that meant the amount of weight the desk could hold is extremely important. There are a lot of these stand desks that can't hold more than 250 pounds, and their websites are not real clear if that even covers the weight of the top or not. The Jarvis, however, is rated at 350 pounds, which is one of the best in the industry, so I don't have to worry about how heavy my computer is, or how big my monitors are, or how much stuff I'm setting on my desk at any given time. Second is the design. For starters, Jarvis is really quick to point out that they use heavy steel for their legs rather than aluminum, and that means that it's just a bit sturdier and a bit more stable, and that probably lends to that heavier weight. Also, they're the only company I could find that sold a desk in red. And if I'm going to build a Ferrari desk, it's gotta be red. On top of that, it's actually a product red product, so that means buying this helps donate money to charity, so you get that extra little good warm feeling inside. Third is ratings. Let's be honest, these desks are anything but cheap, and if you're going to be spending a bunch of money on an item like this, you're probably going to keep it for a very long time. So trying to get the best one you can is extremely important. And repeatedly, the Fully Jarvis is always near the top of all the rating lists, and it's one of Wirecutter's highest recommended desks. So if they love it, that's good enough for me. But let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about that top. Now, for starters, the actual piece of wood did come from Fully. When I was originally designing this whole idea and working things out in my head, I wanted to make sure I had a real wood top, and I wanted a nice thick one. I didn't want some piece of pressed wood or some piece of plastic to cover the top of my desk. So originally, I was just going to make a custom top myself. But thankfully, I found out that Fully actually does hardwood tops and reclaimed wood tops. And that's the one that I went with, is the reclaimed wood top. I'm a big fan of recycling and making use of trees that we've already torn down, so the fact that Fully will sell you a perfectly sized and drilled top that fits right on the base to make installation easy, and it's all reclaimed wood, was super great. Plus, the way it looks is just amazing. Since it's reclaimed wood, none of this stuff is perfect. It's got knots and cracks and divots and nail holes and stuff, and it just gives the desk a ton of character. Obviously, that doesn't make it perfectly smooth, which is something I had to address at a few spots, but it just looks gorgeous. And again, we're recycling, which I really like. Also, the tops that they make when they do these reclaimed woods are amazing. They're a bit over an inch thick, so really nice and heavy and stable. Considering I was going to go with a top that was 6 feet wide, I wanted it to be nice and thick so it had some strength and support in the center. But how'd you actually do the staining and stuff? And for anyone who's done any sort of woodworking before, this will be extremely easy to you, so don't worry. But if you've never done any kind of woodworking, I promise you, it's so easy you can manage as well. The first thing you need to do is just make sure the wood surface you're working with is clean and sanded. This is extremely important because it makes the whole job a lot easier and a lot nicer. If you have dirt and stuff on there, the stain won't stick right. If the wood is rough and covered in splinters, it'll be hard to spread the stain. You'll probably be stabbing yourself in the hands along the way. So once you get the top sanded and cleaned off, wipe off all the dust and stuff, all you have to do is start pouring oil on it. Now, the oil that we're using is in a big jug, and we don't want to dump a big jug over a desk. So first things first, move some of that oil into a smaller container like a solo cup or something. Also, please be careful about being clean and tidy and personal safety. We absolutely recommend wearing gloves. This is used motor oil, so while it's not a caustic chemical, it's certainly not the nicest stuff you can play with. Now, once you have your gloves on and you have your oil in a secondary container, all you got to do is pour a little bit on the wood, take some paper towels or a rag, and just start rubbing it in. You want to start with small areas at first and just wipe down the oil until you get a nice even coat. Don't wipe it dry. You do want a little bit of oil still sitting on the surface, but make sure you get a nice even coverage. Just move piece by piece until you start to get the whole desk covered. Once you have everything covered, all you got to do is just let it sit for a few minutes and let that oil soak in. You will start to see spots where the wood is more porous maybe, or a bit drier, and it's soaking up a bit more oil. Just make sure when you see that, if you don't like the way the color is turning out, to put just a bit more oil on those dry spots, just to keep everything nice and wet until it all soaks in. Once it all soaks in and you let it sit for a little bit, all you got to do is start wiping it off. Just wipe off the excess with some more paper towels until you get the surface as dry as you can. Now, this is where things can change. For me, one coat was really all I needed to get this nice dark color that I liked. But if you decide a desk is just a bit too light after that first coat of oil, go ahead and put on a second coat, and you do it the exact same way. Just put on some oil, wipe it around, let it soak in, wipe it off. Once you wipe everything off, we suggest waiting a day, letting it air out, and then giving it just a quick sand with a really high grit sandpaper, like 300-400. Because when the oil soaks into the wood, some of those fibers that were right near the edge will start to raise a little bit, so it'll take your perfectly smooth desk and make it just a little bit rough. So the sandpaper will just knock that down. Once your desk has had time to air out and let the oil smell go away, again, it takes about a day or two, and you've dried off the surface and sanded off all the raised fibers, all you have left to do, really, is clear coat it. So for this desk, we decided that we wanted to use a clear spray lacquer. Now, there are lots of things you can use, like polyurethane and lacquer, and there are various other wood oils that you could try to apply. Although trying to apply something like a Danish oil on top of the automotive oil can cause you some problems, that is still an option for you. So, applying the spray lacquer is extremely easy. Just shake up the can and then drag coats across, nice and slow, nice and even. Do light coverage, top to bottom. Every couple of times you go to put on a new coat, change the direction you're spraying, go top to bottom, side to side, maybe throw some angles in there. This just helps keep the surface nice and even. And now to finish the desk. And this is, quite frankly, our favorite part about spray lacquer. Since you don't have to sand it between coats, it can get a little bit rough and the surface can get some dust and hair and things built into it, but it's extremely easy to take care of. All you have to do once all of your lacquer has dried is you just take some 4/0 steel wool or an ultrafine scouring pad and just give the desk a quick buff. It'll knock out all of the dust and all of the hair and give the desk a really smooth finish with a nice satin shine. And that satin shine is also the reason we used ultra high gloss lacquer to start with, so that we had some extra shine that we could buff down to something we liked. If you're a big fan of the high gloss look, all you have to do is, once you get the desk buffed down with the steel wool or the scouring pad, make sure you get all the dust off of it and give it one quick spray of lacquer again, and that lacquer will re-adhere and give you a beautiful high gloss coat. And that's it. Those steps is all it takes to turn a slab of wood into an automotive-infused masterpiece like what we have here. So once I had my Ferrari oil desk top done, it was time to attach it to the desk base. Now, the base does come in pieces, so there is a little bit of assembly required, but it's not too difficult, especially if you follow the directions. Now, just put a couple pieces together, make sure you line things up correctly, and then you just bolt the desk to the base and you set it up. I've got a time lapse here for you to check it out. There you have it, folks. That is the Corsa Jarvis Ferrari oil-stained custom race car desk. It's Ferrari red paint, motorized like a supercar spoiler, and of course, that beautiful top was stained with the lifeblood of a Ferrari race car itself. It doesn't get much cooler than that. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and learning how to go through the process to make something like this on your own. If you guys do make anything this cool, please drop me a line and let me know. I would love to see it. Secondly, if you're the kind of person who really wants to do this but doesn't want to watch the video over and over and over again, you're more of a text and pictures kind of person, I have a full write-up on how I did this over on 6speedonline.com. You can find that there. Just search for Ferrari desk and you should be able to find it. I'm Christian, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the first part of building the ultimate automotive office. Part 2 is going to be about fixing some seating, so I'll see you then.